Hello and welcome to Slammers Weekly. This is the first edition of the podcast. My name is Cole Clark. I am out in Phoenix, Arizona today. I'm joined by my friend, Bo Garino, up at the Jersey Shore. This will be a podcast about Philly area golf, tri-state area golf, and specifically amateur golf and the competitions that are held for amateur golf at the highest level for amateurs. We may touch on pro golf a little bit, but it's not the focus of the podcast. And we really look forward to getting into it. I'm excited to chop it up. Bo and I have had this idea going for a while, so we're gonna talk some golf. Bo, how are you doing?
Man, these winters suck, dude. As I've gotten older, I just have less and less tolerance for them. But I was able to get through, I guess, the first couple or few months here without doing anything too stupid. We got 1 month left. Just got to get through March without any catastrophes, and then we got the Masters first week of April. Gap matches start, and we're off and running.
I get it. It's a long haul, and it's easy to kind of cave at the end. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm not there, but I do remember what they're like, and I'm getting kind of soft. I feel like it's still winter anyway, even though I'm here and it's much nicer. But yeah, I think if you can manage to not become an alcoholic and give all your money to sports books, that's a pretty good winter.
Yeah, and so far that has been the case. But like I said, March Madness is right down the road here, so we'll see. Check back in a month, and I'll update you. But how's Phoenix treating you?
It's good. It's good. Yeah, I love it out here. It's been a good winter. Excited to ride it out a few more months. So I'll try to keep my golf game sharp and all that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I feel the season's turning here. I know it feels like it's turning up there too, but we're starting to get some wet days, and I'm starting to think about golf. And now this schedule's released, and we can get into it. So we may as well jump into the Gap schedule. So Golf Association of Philly has their schedule out for the 2023 season. The four majors and all the qualifying sites are released. The four majors are the Mid-Am, the Open, the Am, and the Patterson Cup. The first one of the year is the Mid-Am, and that is being held at Old York Road Country Club on May 22nd and 23rd. Old York Road is not exactly in the top tier of Philly courses, but I don't know everything about this course. Do you have any intel on it?
I'm in the same boat. I have not played Old York Road. I've looked at some aerials, some pictures recently, talked to a couple buddies about it. Everything points to it just being an okay golf course, but I have heard the greens can get pretty good out there. And you would think with the timing of the event being in mid to late May, that time frame is probably the firmest conditions you're going to see in this area. So if they can get it firm and fast and get the greens spiced up, and you couple that with, I looked at the yardage, it's a shorter course, so going to put some wedges in your hand. So firm, fast, and wedges, that sounds like a fun event to me. And look, I mean, if you had to pick one event for the Gap to have the lesser quality course, it would be the Mid-Am, right?
Right. The qualifiers are, they start on April 15th. The first is at Five Ponds. That's on a Saturday. So that could be enticing for some people. On Monday, April 17th, there's one at Scotland Run. And then on May 2nd, you've got one at Coatesville Country Club. And the final one is on May 4th at Iram Country Club. So I don't really know a whole lot about any of these places. Haven't played any of them. I've done a little bit of research on Iram. That's kind of up in the Poconos. It looks kind of like a middle of the woods, maybe a pretty course, but who knows as well. It's kind of just a question mark. Don't really know much about that place, but what do you know about these venues, and where would you go yourself for a qualifier?
Five Ponds has been a mainstay on the Gap qualifying circuit for quite some time now. They had a Mid-Am qualifier out there a couple years ago. I played in. Same deal, early in the season on a Saturday. I think the cut was 75. Yeah, you kind of know what you're going to get out there. I mean, anywhere, especially early in the year, you're going to get some crazy lies. Not a whole lot of growth going on, but especially at, the public tracks, right? So to me, those early on and leaning into, you said that's on the Saturday, the 15th, which is really, we're talking less than 60 days away. And Monday is Scotland Run. Scotland Run's a similar deal, public track, not super plush. So I think the key at those kind of places is you gotta just hit greens. You're not going to get up and down a ton out there, and there's no rough anywhere. So if you just keep your drive in the tree lines, hit greens, make your 13, 14 pars, you're going to get in. Scotland Run's a weird one. I haven't played there in quite some time. It's an interesting track. They've never had any qualifiers out there, so no historical data to go off of. I think almost anybody going to that's flying blind. One, not knowing the number. And also, I don't know how many people have played that from the Gap section outside of some of the local South Jersey players. So that'll be an interesting one. And then Coatesville, I think for a qualifying course, Coatesville's a good spot. They've had some qualifiers in the past too. A mid-70 usually will get you through there, 74, 75. I've played there a couple times over the past year. Greens have been great. Bunkers got restored. So they're doing a nice job out there. I'll probably lean toward heading out there. And like you said, IREM, that leads into another topic of some of these qualifiers so a few years ago, Gap had assumed the association up in the greater Pocono area and added qualifying sites to that region for the Gap majors. I love the sentiment of what they're trying to do as far as expanding the region and making the tournaments available to more players. But it seems like they haven't really gained the traction they would have hoped for up there. I know last year they had a qualifier with like 7 or 8 guys. So it seems to me at some point they're going to have to say, does this fiscally make sense to have these qualifiers out west if no one's really showing up? I mean, to me, it doesn't hurt to have the people still in the tournament, just make them drive a little farther for the qualifiers rather than having them, 2-3 hours away from Philadelphia or some of the host sites. But we'll see how that plays out in the next couple of years. And to answer your question, I do not know anything about IREM.
Yeah, me neither. Another one of those just question mark sites, but it's something to look into if you don't, if it's 2 or almost 3 weeks later than the first qualifier. So if you prefer playing in warm weather or, you'd rather not be battling it out and, 50 degrees, windy, it's an option. Depends how far it is to travel. I know it's like 4 hours from you or something like that, being down at the Jersey Shore. But if it's not as far, it could be an option. But something to think about, especially with the difference in timing between the qualifiers, and then with 5 ponds being on a Saturday, that can be advantageous for some people. So all stuff to consider.
Yeah, it just depends how northern that IREM is. Their season's probably 2 to 4 weeks behind us down here. So it might be a wash.
That's true. That's a good point. Comes around a lot sooner down at the shore, South Jersey and all that. All right. The Philly Am this year has a really exciting site in Huntington Valley, a top tier course indeed, with as part of the championship, a qualifier look away, which is also kind of becoming a Gap mainstay. That takes place in mid-June, June 12th to 17th. It is a marathon of golf if you continue to advance. Are you excited about Huntington Valley as a site? What do you think about Lookaway kind of stepping up as a site for the Gap? Just kind of, really often it seems that they've just kind of got a blank checkout for the Gap. I guess we can get into the qualifiers in a bit, but yeah, what do you think about Huntington Valley as a site?
I love Huntington as a match play event, especially. It's a unique course in the section. It's probably day to day the firmest and fastest course in Gap. at least that I've played. Like I haven't played every single course, but I know that's the reputation. The few times I've been out there, it's played that way. And I think anytime a course brings the ground game into play, it opens up the door for a whole new wave of players to compete and new ways to attack the course. So when you get to that 32-man match play bracket, I don't think it really eliminates the certain players like some other courses do, that put a premium on distance. I think of, an Aronimink or a cricket club. If you're a 270, 275 guy, you might be able to knock out one guy in match play, but you're not going to, over 100 holes, you're just going to get weeded out. Whereas I think Huntington, with the premium being on the second shots, distance control with your approach shots, and just overall around the greens, how many strokes there are to be gained out there. The greens are super tricky. The course traverses around the valley on the front and through the valley on the back. So particularly on the front, you got a lot of greens where the slope of the valley is so strong that Flynn had to pitch and contour the greens up against the valley in order for them to be playable. So you're left with a lot of putts where valley looks like it pulls it left, the green looks like it pulls it right. It's this right edge, it's this left edge. It can really play some tricks on you. I know the few times I've played out there, I have not played it well. There's also some grain in there. So there's just a lot of complexities. And that 4 to 8 foot range becomes really difficult. And with that being said, you get the 30 to 40 foot range, and you talk about those subtleties and you're getting double and triple breakers. You misread one of those and you're left with that 4 to 8 foot range. So the three putts can add up pretty quickly out there. I think really that may be the most difficult course around the greens in the section that I can think of, or at least that I've played. Certainly can make a case for it. And I think you can make a case that maybe even farther out than that, because I can't really think of any courses off the top of my head, I would say, that are more difficult than that course around the green. So it's fair to say whoever wins that week is going to be a good putter and most likely a good greens reader, or bring a good caddy with them.
I love that. Yeah, I got to get out there. It seems amazing, but maybe I will try to qualify. We'll see. Well, actually, I might be able to squeeze it in right before my summer commitment. So we'll see.
It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. You love Flynn, and it's one of his best in the area, if not one of his best he's ever done.
Yeah, I would like to punch a ticket to that place. That'd be cool. If so, I guess if I want to do that, or if anyone wants to do that, there are 4 qualifiers. May 10th, you got Lulu Country Club. May 16th, you have Berwick Golf Club. On May 18th, you have Little Mill. And on May 22nd, you have Mizzellum Springs. I guess there is some weird overlap there with Mizzellum and the Mid-Am. So that's kind of strange from a scheduling standpoint. But what do you know about these sites, and where would you go yourself as travel aside, easiest place to get in, do you think? Where will kind of the number be the highest, or where would it favor your game?
The number will probably be the highest at Little Mill. That doesn't mean that it favors my game at all. I was out there. I was a member out there for a few years, and yeah, if you lose it's one of those places you sign up for and you're just praying you don't lose your driver a few days before it, because it can turn into some sleepless nights leading in. It's tight. It's a claustrophobic place. If the wind starts blowing, you start blowing the ball all around, you get it above the tree lines, it can turn into a house of horrors out there. I'm going to steer clear of there. I have a hard time pegging it up in a stroke play event there. But the good players, if you're a good player, then you go out to Little Mill. If you hit it straight, that's your spot. Berwick, once again, Poconos, toss it out. I don't know anything about it. I'm sure there's not a whole lot of people going to be heading out there. Lulu, that's a tough one. It's a fun golf course. It's a great qualifying course. Probably the the four, probably the funnest qualifying course, probably the most stress-free. But at the same time, with the plethora of great players they have out there, I'm sure the field's going to be super strong, which will drive down the number a bit. And then, like you said, Mosellum overlaps with the Mid-Am, so that's an interesting one because, yeah, it seems you probably would have some people sign up for that and then get in the Mid-Am and have to withdraw, and then all the good players who are exempt or who are the Mid-Am but not the Am will obviously not be out there. So it will be a weaker site from a strength of player standpoint. But yeah, still a great qualifying course. I like Mosellum. I know you have played out there a few times too, and you think fondly of it as well.
I have. I like that place. It's a beautiful property out in the hills in Pennsylvania. Played the BCGA match play out there a couple of years ago. Little plug for the BCGA, Berks County Golf Association. They run some good events.
Isn't that just supposed to be for the people in the county though? Didn't you just kind of?
Well, no, you can sign up. I don't think I used my mom's address out in Carbon County, which is almost an hour away. So you didn't have to have like a Berks County address. And yeah, sure, they called me the out of town guy, but whatever, a chip on my shoulder. It was fun.
Yeah, not a big lineup of players looking to infiltrate the what is it, the BCAG? BCMG?
Yeah, I figure if there were more people like me, it might be an issue, but for better or worse, there's not. Anyway, we can move on. The Open is the next major of the year. That's in July, the 19th and 20th. This one is being held at Lookaway. Like we were saying, Lookaway has hosted a lot in the last few years. Based on what you know about the tournament history there, how do you feel about Lookaway as an open venue?
Yeah, so going back to 2020, they had the PAM out there, 3-day event, 10 under won it, Mike Brown. And then 21, the Gap Mid-Am, won by Scott McNeil at 5 under for 2 rounds. And then now, the 23 Open there and the 23 match play, sister qualifying sites. Like you said, they've really been really generous to the association, which is great for us because I think Lookaway is a great place. I think it's a pretty good golf course, and then the rest of the place is pretty spectacular. Beautiful landscape, beautiful clubhouse and facilities, and just an overall really special place and a great host venue. I think what I like a lot about it too is you see the consistency in scoring out there. Nobody's ripping the place apart, but guys aren't shooting crazy high numbers either. It's just a good, solid test of golf, right? It's fun. It's one of those places if you're a good player, you tee it up. If you play well, you shoot. You can shoot under par. If you play bad, you shoot a mid-70, which falls right in line with the target scores that you're trying to produce for this type of championship.
For sure. So it seems like 3 under a round is kind of generally what it takes to win an event out there with, top level players.
Yeah, that's right. And from a setup perspective, it's kind of a no-brainer what you do out there because there's not a ton of flexibility in the layout. There's not any really drivable 4s and the course isn't overly long to begin with. So it's one of those courses I think you just mainly tip it out. Maybe you move a par 3 up here and there each day or one of the 5s. But yeah, I think you just play it off the card almost and roll with it.
Yeah, I agree. That place kicks ass. It's an amazing property. So beautiful. The facilities are nuts. The chipping area is crazy. The range is good. They've got the oldest structure used as a clubhouse in the country. So it's like some old farmhouse that they blew up and expanded. And I agree. The course is pretty good. It's a Reese Jones who I don't like a ton of his work, but Lookaway is pretty darn good. Give Reese some credit there. It's really solid. Yeah, I think it'll be a good test. Qualifiers for that will be in the weeks before. They will be held at 3 different sites. It'll be Bellwood Country Club, Stonehenge Golf Club, and Bluebell Country Club. What do you know about those sites? Where would you go?
Stonehenge, once again, it sounds like a Pocono place, I'm assuming. So not much to add there. Bluebell, man, I made myself a promise. I think I played there in a gap match, I want to say 7 years ago. And I made myself a promise that under no circumstance would I ever play that course again. Not even in a scramble, nothing. Like, I will just never step foot on that property again. I didn't even play bad. It's just one of those places it's one of the most soulless golf courses you'll ever play, especially in the Northeast. It's interwoven throughout a development. It's like, even if the developments weren't there, it's a bad golf course. And then it's like, take say 13 bad holes. There's a few holes that are like, whatever, they're fine if they were standalone holes. Take 13, 14 just bad golf holes, and then double line them with houses and out of bounds. What do you hear? It's bad. It's almost incredible that they're still having stuff out there. And I know it's hard for them to get courses to offer up their course for a day, especially with qualifiers. But it's almost worn out its welcome in the gap qualifying circuit from a lot of the other players I've spoken with as well.
That's tough for Bluebell. It's yeah, I haven't been out there. I was supposed to go there. I had no business playing in this qualifier. It was like a USAM qualifier, I think, the 36 hole one. And I was over at Cedarwood and just shot a billion and said, F it, I'm not going over to Bluebell in the afternoon. It was like 105 and I just couldn't be convinced. But I just pulled up this Stonehenge. You were right. It is up even a little bit like northwest of like Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area. It's way, way out there. But there's actually a couple pictures that look all right. It looks like a lot of elevation changes up in the mountains, but there's one, they don't have a lot of pictures on the website, but there's one that looks, pretty awesome. Almost kind of like gives me like a Lehigh vibe.
That's interesting. Yeah, it seems like most of the courses up there, because of the mountains and the sight lines, have some really cool holes, and then generally on the flip side, some really bad ones because of the mountains and the way the course has to traverse the hills and everything else. But it also seems like that area, because maybe the lack of wealth or lack of membership compared with the main line and some of these other wealthy areas, that the courses haven't been really kept up with times as much. Seems like the trees are a little overgrown and maybe you need some bunker restoration, but a lot of potential in some of the places out that way. And then the third course you mentioned was Bellwood. I like Bellwood. I think Bellwood's a good qualifying course. The front 9 is pretty much just a bomb and gouge wide open, not much to it. Pretty fun front 9. And then the back 9 gets a little quirky. It's got a few holes that are not the greatest, but I think overall, when you look at qualifying sites, if you can get a course that has, 12 or 13 decently good holes and then a few head scratchers, you're not doing too bad, especially when comparing with the Bluebells of the world.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So we got the Patterson Cup, final major of the year. It's in early August, the 9th and 10th. It's a 36-hole stroke play. It's being held at Lanark Country Club, which is exciting. It's a good venue from what I've heard. I haven't been out there, but what do you know about Lanark? Where would you, I guess, if you would indulge us, where would you put it in your hierarchy of top tier Philly courses, a competitive bracket? And like, what is your hierarchy of the Philly courses?
Yeah, so if you're just saying going with like a tiering approach, I would say tier 1A. I'd go with Pine Valley, Aronimink, Marion, Cricket. Pretty obvious choices. I'd also throw in Lancaster and Rolling Green in there as well. I know that's probably a bit controversial, but I'm a big Flynn fan, and I think those are probably his two best courses in the area, and pretty underrated places in my opinion. So I'd throw them right on the back end of that tier 1A, and then in 1B I got, and I call it 1B just because these courses are such good courses that it doesn't seems disrespectful slapping a tier 2 tag on these guys. But the Lehighs, Huntington Valley, Philly Country, Stonewall, the Salkin courses, White Marsh, Lookaway, and then that's just kind of the tier that I have Lanark in toward the back end of it. Wilmington, I think of the Delaware course, I think of Wilmington. And then if you're including South Jersey, which is technically in Gap, even though we don't really think of that as like Philly, direct Philly area golf, get Galloway, AC, Hidden Creek. The Union League National down here is really awesome. They just rebuilt that a couple years ago. And then there's a few I haven't played that I think would probably end up in this category from people that have similar opinions on courses. Like Gulf Mills, Bitterman, Scranton come to mind. And then just to add some context, like after that tier 1B, it drops off for me to like the Riverdens, the Tavistocks, manufacturers, St. David's of the world.
Okay, fair enough. I like that. All reasonable, very reasonable. What do you know about Lanark specifically, and how do you think it'll play as a Patterson Cup course?
I haven't played out there since, so they did some work over the last couple years. They took a bunch of trees out from what I've heard, and I think they've added some tee boxes and some bunkering as well, some runoff areas. It was performed by Renaissance Golf, which Tom Doak's firm, which I know you and I are both fans of. I heard the course did get a lot easier with the tree removal, which makes sense. But I think overall it's a really good test of golf. I mean, last time they had the Mid-Am out there, +1 won it. I think second place was +4. And it seems like every time they have something out there, no matter what it is, even par is a really good score, which isn't always the case with Patterson Cup venues. That they usually go with with a little bit easier course and lower that target score a bit. So I think that will change up a bit this year. Yeah, I think it will be great. I think it's great that they did the work for the course. It will be a nice way for them to showcase the place in a Gap major.
All right. Patterson Cup qualifiers are at French Creek, Pocono Farms, and the Legacy Club at Woodcrest. What do you know about those, and where would you go for qualifying?
I'll be going to Woodcrest, the Legacy Club at Woodcrest. It's Flynn's only course in New Jersey. Actually, I shouldn't say that. He also did. I always forget that he did Seaview Pines as well, but only I would say old style traditional course anyway. It's not his most prominent course, but it's still a fairly solid course. They've had some U.S. local qualifiers out there over the years, and even pars always holds up in those. So that just shows you it's a pretty good test of golf when you get players of that caliber and even pars holding up. Pocono Farms, once again, we don't really have much to add there. And then French Creek. French Creek's is a Gil Hanse course, original design. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I do like Gil and most of his work, but French Creek is not my favorite. But for a qualifier course, it could be worse. But I will not be heading out there for that.
Fair enough. Did he consult at Pine Valley? We count that for anything?
Yeah, he did, as well as some other legendary architects. Flynn was also involved in AC Country Club, although I think they give the original design to Willie Park. But just wanted to mention that as well.
I feel like if Pine Valley was like a song, it would be like a DJ Khaled song with like Drake and like a million features on it. Cause like it seems like every architect who was anyone at the time like consulted on that project.
Yeah, just like a song that may require multiple musicians with different skill sets to come together to make great music. I think Pine Valley is no exception. It was Crump's vision. He was the visionary behind the project, but I think it's fair to say without the help of guys like Willie Flynn and uh, Tillinghast and Walter Travis, et cetera, there's no doubt that Pine Valley wouldn't be the course it is today.
George Crump is DJ Khaled. You heard it here first. All right. Kind of concludes our section on the majors. A lot to look forward to. Keep an eye on dates for registration. For Mid-Am qualifiers open on March 2nd. If you want to get in at 5 ponds on a Saturday, or if you want to get the site you want, mark your calendars, March 2nd. Sign up, compete. It's fun. It's a good thing to do. Test your game, see where it stands. It's the best way to do it. Moving on, we got a few other things to talk about. We could talk about the players in GAP this year, and I guess who we expect to win. So if you were to give a top 5 on GAP players you expect to perform well and win this year, who would they be?
I'm going to stick with the chalk here. I think you got a couple no-brainers, and I'll start with Mike Brown, obviously reigning player of the year. Guy's won everything in the area in the last few years. He made, I know he went down to Florida and tried to make a senior tour run, made a nice effort. I think he won the first stage and then fell short in the final stage. But I think he's coming back. I did check out his gin a few nights ago. Saw it's active at Lulu, so I'm assuming he's going to come back in the area and play. So gotta have him on there. Another guy is Troy Vanucci. Guy who's just super consistent. Seems to be on every leaderboard in the area. Hits it straight. His game travels well. He popped his GAP major cherry last year at the Mid-Am. And it seems like it just could be potential floodgates for him. It just seems like it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when he wins again. The next guy I'm throwing in there is Cole Wilcox. He grew up playing in the area, turned pro for a little bit, came back in the last couple of years. Good player. He came in third last year at the Patterson Cup, one shot back of the playoff, was in the final group going into the Mid-Am. He won the Philly Country Club Invitational, which is one of the better invitationals in the area. So it seems like he's just primed to. He's been there. He's been in the final groups. He's been a couple shots off, and if he can just close that gap, he should be right there. And then the last two guys, I don't know how much these guys are going to be playing in our local stuff, but I'd like to think they would sign up for a couple things. And if that's the case, it wouldn't be fair to leave them off the list. In two really good college players, probably two of the better players we've had in our section in quite some time, in Josh Ryan and Drew Nicholas. So I have both of their college bios pulled up here from the previous season, and the numbers are pretty staggering. Ryan averaged a 70.17, led the team, I think they're ranked third. They finished the season ranked 33 in the country. Opened his career with a 7 under 65. He had 3 different tournaments: one at 11 under, one at 10 under, one at 12 under. Just really crazy numbers. Same thing with Nicholas. He won the Patterson Cup last year. Knocked off Brown in the playoff at St. David's, but 70.6 scoring average. I mean, these are like under par scoring averages, which for college golf is pretty absurd. Same thing, some 12 under, 13 under finishes. He had 10 round in the 60s. He had 20 of his 29 rounds were under par. These guys are just really just on another level. So if they're playing in the area, it would be hard to imagine them not competing.
Yeah, those numbers are absurd. I mean, to play that well in college golf is so hard, especially considering the time of year they play, the region, like conditions aren't good. The setups are always hard. Um, I just can't fathom it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you're playing totally different style courses a lot of the times too. So it just shows that you're just going from week to week and playing 3-round events at courses you probably have never seen before. Right? They're traveling around, and to just show up and be like, just come out the gates and just kind of shoot your pedestrian 10, 12, 13 under for 3 rounds is just, obviously for guys like us, it's unfathomable. But it's certainly something we admire and respect, especially after looking back at our college careers.
Yeah, for sure. Our stroke averages were a good 9 or 10 shots higher, which would be pretty demoralizing to lose on average by 9 or 10 shots around every time.
Yeah, you're getting 4 and 4, and you're getting beat every time. It's just, I'm just glad those guys weren't on our team, because I probably would have quit, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't gamble with those guys straight up on a day-to-day basis. That just, that would just wipe my scholarship right out.
Yeah, no way.
No chance. All right. Those are the players. We talked about the courses. An exciting course project going on is the Cobbs Creek Restoration. It's a public course in West Philly, very close to downtown. It's been around for many years. It was designed by Hugh Wilson, same designer as Marion. It's kind of been in a state of disrepair for a lot of years. It's become known as Slobs Creek, but they are putting $65 million into it. They hired Gil Hance and said, hey, can you make this place any good with 65 mil? I have a feeling he can. But what do you think? And I guess, what do you think is the goal of this project? And what do you think is the highest level of competition they will host?
So I know that part of the deal selling this to the residents and to the city was saying, hey, we're going to get some stops out here and we're going to bring this extra revenue to the city. So I think the goal is certainly to get some kind of tour event out there, whether it's a yearly stop or not, to be determined. But I also heard, and I don't know how true this is just stuff I've heard of some gossip at some qualifiers last year, of that they're trying to get a PGA championship down the road is the ultimate goal. So we'll see where that lands, but it's the 65 million is just a crazy number. I mean, looking at the drawings, the routing is going to stay relatively the same. So it's pretty incredible that the amount of money that they were able to secure for that project. I know a lot of it, like you were saying, with the creeks and just restoring them is just a massive project alone. And they also have some, youth center that they're building, some pretty cool stuff surrounding the First Tee organization. But yeah, I think, like you said with Gil, I mean, I don't think Gil's work in the area has been his best. I'm a big Gil fan, but I think, when I think of French Creek, Innistrone, and Applebrook, I look compared to what he's doing now, it just seems like night and day, the work, and to get this project in his hometown at this point in his career, I have no doubt that he'll kill this thing.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes out. It's exciting too for just the public golf scene in general, which in the Philly area is pretty dismal. So it'll be nice to have a really good option. I mean, I'm sure it'll be crowded and probably expensive, especially early on, but a step in the right direction for sure. Moving on to some of our last topics here, kind of the state of country clubs in the area. I guess just kind of wanted to get your take on kind of the changing geography of that scene, and where you think you will end up as a member this season.
For a while, even though we are GAP, right, it was always different. The mainline courses and the Philly courses compared to the South Jersey courses. a lot of the prominent Philly courses have always had initiations and wait lists. That was never the case in South Jersey. You just basically every year I would just call around and see who had the best deal that year or what made the most sense, and you go over and you drop your check off and you remember. There's no vetting process, and now that's all changed in South Jersey with the golf boom. Courses that you never thought would have wait lists are now having wait lists and initiations. So I kind of feel like being in South Jersey and if you remember at a club, you're kind of stuck at this point because even if you wanted to jump ship, you couldn't because you get thrown on a wait list. So if you want to golf this year, you're probably just staying put where you're at. I'm still going to be at Riverton this year. And for me, it was either do that or you either do that or you do the public route and you go to the Jaws circuit. And I just have really at this point in my golfing career, just don't really have any appetite to be paying $120 on a Sunday to play a 4.5 hour round at Ramblewood.
That is very fair. I don't know that many people, at least in my circle, that do have that kind of patience and to pay whatever it is, $120 to play a 5 hour round on a Saturday or Sunday morning. I mean, at not terrible courses, but just uninspiring. So yeah,
better ways to spend your time, right? We love golf, but at the same time, there's better ways to spend your time than playing some of these tracks.
Yeah, no doubt. And just get into pickleball or something or whatever.
Buy a boat.
Right. Yeah, boating. Anything really. Recently, an exciting thing for our section is one of the Wall brothers played at Riv in the Genesis. You want to kind of comment and summarize on that a little bit?
Yeah, that was really cool to hear. So for those who don't know Jack, Jack's a Jersey guy out of Manasquan River Country Club. His brother, Jeremy Wall, won back-to-back Philly Ams a few years back. So certainly some talent in that family. But Jack won the Genesis Collegiate Invitational, which was held at Riviera. And whoever wins that event gets to tee it up the following week in the actual Genesis Open, the PGA Tour event. And Jack played very admirably. He shot 4 over, missed the cut by 3 shots, was right around the cut line in the back 9 on Friday. Awesome first start for him. Really cool that they do that and allow a kid like that to tee it up with, Tiger was there that week, and Riviera, just such an iconic venue. Can't really think of a much cooler spot to have your first PGA Tour start at. So congrats to Jack, and hopefully we hear more from Jack in the near future.
Sweet. I agree. Well, a lot to look forward to with the qualifiers. Again, keep an eye on dates. Get your handicap all registered, renewed, paid. Even if you've never played, if you're on that borderline, if you're, a 5-6 handicap, something like that, sign up. Just get out there, see how it feels under a little bit of pressure. It's one of the best things you can do for your game, and it's the only way to really know where you stand. Thank you for tuning in to Slammers Weekly. We're going to keep doing this weekly, hopefully, is the idea. Philly golf, New Jersey golf, tri-state area golf, amateur golf competition. Keep checking it out. Keep listening. Thank you. For my friend Bogarino, I am Cole Clark, and we'll be back again. Thank you.